Alrighty, I would like to talk about some of the options for connecting a Steam Deck up to a television with an HDMI port or a device with a HDMI input on it, such as an Elgato capture card or other video capture device, whatever you have basically. I ultimately went with this device here. It's manufactured by Anker or Anker, tomato, Power Expand Plus 7-in-1 USB-C PD Power Delivery Media Hub. PD stands for Power Delivery. It's for power-hungry USB Type-C devices. This one is pretty versatile, and it's got some extra USB ports on it, but it may not be the best value for you. And I will show you another option in a moment. But if you have something you want to use with a laptop, for example, it's pretty cool because it'll output basically if your laptop uses up to 85 watts and what have you, this will supply power, provided you supply a 100-watt power adapter. Essentially, that's indicating that this device consumes 15 watts of overhead, and it does say as much. It says power delivery compatible, supports up to 100 watts minus 15 watts for operation, and that is why this 85-watt MacBook is using a 100-watt power adapter going into the hub. This hub, of course, will provide you with an HDMI port, which is like the main reason I bought it for the Steam Deck. I also bought it because I trust the brand. Anker makes pretty solid, reliable devices. The only catch is that I don't think it'll run. There's a chance that it won't run my Steam Deck at full, battery charging speed at least. Like, I think I'll get full performance, but the battery might not charge at full speed using the stock power adapter, which comes with the Steam Deck, which is rated at 45 watts. And you can, buy an aftermarket charger that is also rated for 45 watts, but it's not really the optimal option. In this case, I would spend an additional $10, $49.99, and get the 65 watt if I wanted to buy an aftermarket charger to go with this while using it with my Steam Deck. And so, if not for my desire to have the extra USB ports and to be able to use this for other things, or the portability factor, or my excuse that it's reliable, heck, I'm tempted to return it. But like I said, I think it'll last in the long haul. Alternatively, if I wanted to take a risk with a device that wasn't reviewed at all, this one is interesting. JS Aux brand, whatever that is, and it says charger dock for Steam Deck. It's rated at 45 watts. And it has everything you already need. I mean, look at this picture here. It's got a passive dock, basically a stand. You got your charging / data cable going to the USB-C PD port. And you got an HDMI cable going to the TV. And that's pretty much all you would need. Like, it's all in one little thing. It's $49.99 as opposed to spending $49.99 plus $35. So it's a good value. You could probably plug a USB hub into it if you wanted to, although at that point it starts to justify the price of this. Depends on what your needs are, I suppose. But pretty straightforward. It's like boom, boom, boom. You got your connectors, you're good to go. It's self-contained, easy peasy. Even comes with the cable, which would be like another $10. I already have a cable, so if I buy this charger, which does not come with a cable, I at least already have a PD power delivery cable. That is, the specific type that will work. This one can go up to 100 watts. They do have weaker ones. But yeah, I spent $17 on this. It's 6 foot. That would be $16 on top of $35. So, do the math. $35 plus $50. That's $85. $95, so basically about $102. You're spending about $102 total between this, the wall charger, and the appropriate cable to go with this. Whereas you could just spend $49.99 and have everything all together, a secondary charger for your Steam Deck, and an HDMI adapter at the same time. So I think it's a fantastic option. I would feel more comfortable if I saw reviews for it. I'd be very tempted to just go up and buy this one because, it does everything I need. If I needed the power of this hub, however, then yeah, I would still need to get something with 60 watts anyway. So I'm not really jumping for this one, but I don't want to misdirect anybody into buying this when something like this exists. And, barring any potential for bad reviews, I think it's a beautiful option. If you wanted something overkill, you can get this, and I think this is great, especially for like a laptop that doesn't have a Ethernet port built into it. And speaking of Ethernet ports, you have that USB 3.0 port you can buy, or if you already have one of these, you can plug one into either this hub or the other one we were just looking at. So, gigabit Ethernet is available, and I think I'm still coming out ahead price-wise when it comes to the $50 charge. What I said, $102. So I'm still coming out ahead buying the Anker product, but I think buying the Ethernet adapter would bring us basically just under this $139.99. So it's a matter of preference. Also, the audio jack is just extra overkill. I don't need an extra audio jack, but maybe for someone with a laptop where they want to have a permanent speaker set hooked up at home, the idea is you can plop your laptop down on your desk, plug in a single USB-C cable, it would automatically spawn your monitor, your speakers would be ready to go, your hardwired Ethernet would be there. So that could be really cool. And of course, if you have maybe like a USB external hard drive or something like that. With the Anker, that's pretty much what we're looking at here when we see this picture. Someone would have a monitor, like how I used to have my MacBook set up is I would put my MacBook down on my desk, plug in an HDMI cable, plug in an Ethernet cable, plug in the power cord, which was very easy. It was the magnetic one. And then I could just drag my mouse from the bottom screen to the upper screen, laptop screen, external screen. So that was a cool setup, and this hub would afford you that level of flexibility, as would this one right here if you were to use it with a laptop. That reminds me, that's one of the reasons I bought this one in particular. When I was on the Steam Deck Reddit page, one guy was really excited that he could pretty much use a Steam Deck for everything. You just hook it up to a hub and a monitor, and he could import photos from his digital camera and use, desktop mode, which is running on top of Arch Linux anyway. And yeah, he was a happy camper managing his raw digital photos and all of that stuff. So, there is some great level of versatility with the Steam Deck if you're looking for like a portable handheld computer, a gaming device, and even like a desktop replacement, believe it or not, as insane as that sounds. In my case, the main reason I bought something with an HDMI port on it was so that I could use remote play. Because, I have a very robust gaming PC. I have a server that runs a virtual machine that has, gaming capabilities on it and a dedicated GPU. So I could essentially hook this up to my TV. In fact, let's go ahead and do it right now for demonstration purposes. Okay. To do this, we're just going to plug this in. Now, remember, I only have the 45-watt Steam Deck charger, so you might be wondering how I'm charging this up. I'm just going to use this power bank here. It's like a monster. It's 72,000 milliamp hours and 266 watt hours, and it has a 60-watt USB-C power delivery port on it, which means that it will provide ample power with power to spare for this 15-watt hub. Hey Google, switch input to HDMI 1. Alrighty, some important detail. When you first plug in a second monitor, or when you first plug in the HDMI cable, if you are in desktop mode at least, when you are in desktop mode, it shows up like a blank desktop on your, monitor, on your HDMI screen, on your TV. And that's because it goes into dual monitor mode. And so what I had to do was, I opened this up by going to the deck menu on the bottom left corner, typing in the word display, and going into display configuration. These are the display settings. This is the built-in screen. They call it a laptop screen, but that is the Steam Deck onboard screen. And this is my HDMI output. And so what we're going to do is we're just going to make that my primary, because I want to use my monitor as a primary, which is hooked up by HDMI, and I want to disable the built-in screen on the Steam Deck because I don't want to use it in dual monitor mode right now. it can be useful, but I don't want to use it like that at this instant. It is actually very useful. I do like the idea. And here we are. Now we alrighty, upon exiting desktop mode, I did try opening this up, and basically it gave me the spinning circle, and it did nothing after that. So at the moment, using the simple command to start SSH will not work, but maybe that's because I was supposed to edit the command in order to, like, you know, run it in the background. But in order to edit that, I have to reboot into desktop mode again. Or, you know, in order to, you know, update the file, I can edit it and then update the file, but I can't do it unless I can't change that setting from gaming mode right now. But we really want to have a way to remotely issue commands. Oh, my delivery is here. Excuse me, I ran downstairs to meet the delivery person, but then they went up a one-way street and now they gotta drive the long way to meet me. So we got like a minute. But here I ran down my stairs, got to the door, realized the guy wasn't here yet. I was like, okay, but he'll be here in a minute. Alrighty, so this is Between the Stars. It's one of my favorite games. Before we load it up, I want to go and check these settings. It looks beautiful in these settings, but I think it's prone to crashing if I'm not careful. I'm very tempted to lower these settings, but we'll leave it on high for now. Plays great on a PC, typically with a keyboard and mouse, because, you know, you get a lot of control over things. One of the first things I did when I set this game up was I figured out how to activate the bumper buttons here, these two on either side, because I wanted to precisely control the ship's thrusters. Because you know, in this game you could fly forward and back, you could rotate the ship like this, but without the keyboard you can't thrust up or down, left and right.
Greetings,
you could
Captain.
steer right.
Hope you didn't have any setbacks on your journey here.
And left, but you can't,
All of our missions have setbacks,
like,
sir.
strafe
In fact,
side to
I must
side.
speak with you in private.
And I'll show you exactly what I mean right
Council will
now.
be held
So
in a few hours.
I got the correct
Whatever it
mouse
is,
here,
we'll have to wait.
and if I
Land
press
immediately and take
my
care of everything
Z
before the
button,
council.
it goes left. If I press
At your
X,
disposal, Admiral.
wait, if I press Z and C, so Z and C, I can strafe side to side. Shift, it goes up. Control, it goes down. And it's not necessary to have these maneuvers at your disposal, but I think it adds a bit more fun to the game. And so I found out that in order to get, you know, this additional functionality, and in order to map those rear bumper buttons, you need to, like, basically map them to keyboard keys. But what I did not realize was that those buttons are already mapped to something in this game. So I gotta go back to my Steam settings at some point and, like, undo that change, because it's like not a feature I use yet in this game, as I'm, you know, early in the campaign, but it will interfere. But as a result, you don't really have that ability in using the gamepad. You can do, whoops, I gotta turn on my gamepad, it's not on. That was easy, it turned on very quickly. With the gamepad, I can press the up button, and if you'll get the look at the bottom right corner, you see power. And I could go, you know, 5 notches, or I can go backwards like 2 notches, or 4 notches it was. So now I'm going backwards. And even though you might not be able to tell if you're moving in space, they have particles, and in this case we're in a debris field. So you can go backwards at a slower rate, and you can go forwards at a faster rate. What's interesting is if you divert power, also on the bottom right corner, to your engines, you can go considerably faster. And I can demonstrate that here. I just took power away from my engines, now I'm gonna give it back to my engines. And and I took it away. So you get a bit more speed when you divert power to your engines, but when you're in battle, you'll probably say, screw it, I'll divert power to my weapons and shields. And this is easy. On the keyboard, you just press like the arrow keys. You go left arrow key. Oh, now it's not working. Oh, I'm doing it wrong. Yeah, wait, no, that's okay. Left arrow key goes to engines. Right arrow key goes to shields. Up arrow key puts everything into your weapons. And if you press the bottom arrow key, it splits it evenly between weapons and shields. And you can pretty much alternate, use the arrow keys in various combinations to, divert power to the systems you want. Typically, you might want weapons and engines and shields when you're just, loitering. And then once you get into a battle, that's when you'll goose up your energy to your weapons and engines. And one thing I noticed that's interesting is if you're using a gamepad on the Steam Deck and you alternate between the keyboard and gamepad, there is a bit of a delay. Like the minute I move this stick, the keyboard won't work for like about 5 seconds, like 3 seconds, about 2 to 3 seconds. But that's probably one of the reasons why I had a bit of a delay when using the bumper buttons. Anyway, I keep looking at my phone thinking at the delivery guys here, but looks like they're making other stops. And that's okay, I just wish I knew so I could keep playing this wonderful game. So yeah, let's go over it real quick. Council of War. And that's because I've completed my other missions, and you see, the Council of War. The reason that we have that option is because about a few days ago, the headquarters for the Interstellar Republic were destroyed. And a couple of the admirals had to get together in order to plan a meeting at a new location. And, well, after killing some time, I can now go and join that meeting of the council. But real quick, you can see the controls, you can see the weapons. As you progress through the game, you get different weapons, you get different power-ups. Now we'll speed up. There is a boost that you can enable by holding down the X button, but it's a limited boost. Now, what do I want to do? Do I want to go to the council meeting, or do I want to go to the space station? 300 kilometers away, or 100 kilometers. I think it's 100 kilometers. That's like 130. So we'll go ahead, we'll engage our quantum drive. And there's a distinct possibility that I will get accosted on my way to this destination. Sometimes you get accosted by random ships and you gotta go into a battle. See?
Activate the shields. Let's finish them.
Now I can divert weapons and shields. And then I can use my control stick. So sometimes you get more precise control from a keyboard and mouse, but it is tricky to alternate between your keyboard and mouse because of that 3-second delay. Well, that's good. Okay. I'm glad I blew up a ship right as my weapons were overheating. At least I accomplished something in the meantime. And the cooldown time isn't too bad. I mean, it varies, and depending on your ship and your loadout. And then you just grab the loot. But imagine hooking this up to a TV. It's like having a television-based game system. And I think what we can do next is we'll go to the space station, and then we're going to try out remote play. Uh-oh. No, I don't want to go there. Wrong direction. You do not want to go to a distress signal. That just means you're going to have to fight someone. Yeah, that's where I want to go. I want to go to the Allied station. And a little trick I do is I'll engage my quantum drive when I'm near a station, even though
Republic ship requesting docking permission, please.
it gets interrupted pretty quickly by the communications.
My house is your house.
There we go, and they want me to dock at number 7. Now, like I said, I can use these thrusters to control my position, precisely. I can use my thrusters to control my position precisely, but it doesn't really matter as long as you line up in front of that green light. Your ship will automatically rotate, reorient, and line itself up with the dock once you stop in front of that green light. And that's basically it. In conclusion, next time I record a video involving this game, I will be using Steam Remote Play, which basically allows me to play the game on my desktop computer, which is basically a gaming PC. It's a multi-purpose, but essentially you got a heavy-hitting gaming PC running the game, streaming the video from the PC to the Steam Deck handheld, and all of the control inputs, of course, are relayed back to the PC. This allows us to tax the resources of this device much less, thereby allowing the CPU and the GPU to run cooler, which would in effect allow the battery to last longer. Of course, there's 2 times you might use this. If you want to use it wirelessly on your home network to play games at higher quality, because yes, you will be able to get better quality through remote play than you would play if you were playing natively, providing your Wi-Fi signal is good. Or if it's hooked up to your TV, and especially if you hook it up by, using a gigabit Ethernet adapter like this, then you can run the game at 1080p and 60 frames a second to have like a lag-free, high-quality gaming experience, which makes sense because, if you have an Ethernet adapter, Ethernet port near your TV, you might as well take advantage of it. Why use Wi-Fi if you know the device is going to be sitting still next to your TV? I have multiple Ethernet devices connected around my TV. Now, of course, if you're on Wi-Fi, as long as your Wi-Fi is good and your stuff is all on the same network, remote play still works really well. And so I think when I do that video, I will test it out both ways. I will test it out, I'll hook it up by HDMI, just, so you can see what's going on, but I will play the game through remote play over Wi-Fi. Then I will connect it, I'll hardwire it, and we'll see how much better it might look. If it, performs better, maybe we get some lag, some latency, some choppiness when we're on Wi-Fi. Whereas on the wired connection, I expect to be able to run at full 1080p without any hiccups. And then from there, maybe if we're really adventurous, we'll try it out on a cellular connection, but I don't really have high expectations of that scenario. But with that, if you have any questions, comments, or ideas, please leave a comment. And other than that, please like and subscribe. And from here, I think it's time that we end transmission.